When we think of World War I, we think of trenches in France and Belgium. But the war was fought on every ocean, on every continent, from the beaches of China to the deserts of Mesopotamia, from the coasts of Africa to the islands of the Pacific. From the start of the war, Germany seized on Britain's greatest weakness, a vast empire, hard to defend, fatal to lose. The gamble was that Britain might risk everything to protect it, even victory on the Western Front. War for Europe meant war for the world. Germany had come late to the game of empires. By 1900 she had Togoland, Cameroon, German Southwest Africa, now Namibia, and German East Africa, now Tanzania. Her flag flew over patches in the Pacific, New Guinea, Samoa, and Micronesia. She had a vital toehold in China at Tsingtao. Grand Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz saw this as just the start. "We are now standing only at the beginning of a new division of the globe," he declared. Germany alarmed the world with her imperial ambitions. Germany's greatest naval force outside Europe was Admiral Graf von Spee's powerful East Asiatic squadron based at Tsingtao in China. Spee and his commanders were superb sailors with the instincts of pirates. The Kaiser gave them full authority to make their own decisions. Spee wrote, "I am quite homeless. I cannot reach Germany. I must plough the seas of the world, doing as much mischief as I can." His squadron would become one of the most feared forces in the war. Spee had a constant worry. Cruisers needed coal every 8 or 9 days, or they'd be dead in the water. He made for neutral Chile, where he had coal waiting for him. The hunt was on. Tsingtao was the Kaiser's pride and joy. He once said, "It would shame me more to surrender Tsingtao to the Japanese than Berlin to the Russians." Britain saw seizing it as urgent but lacked the resources. 2 days into the war, Britain turned to her ally Japan. Japan was a growing power. Britain's call for naval help suited her ambitions perfectly. Together, Britain and Japan would capture Tsingtao. On September 2, 1914, 60,000 Japanese troops landed, violating China's neutrality. They met up with 2,000 British soldiers and closed in on the German garrison of 4,500. One German soldier wrote, "It's unbearable. All we can do is sit and wait for this bunch of monkeys to arrive." For a solid week, the Japanese battered Tsingtao. On November 7th, they entered the town in triumph. The capture of Tsingtao gave Japan a launch pad to pursue its own empire building. Within weeks, Japan demanded territory and trading rights from China. Much to America's frustration, Britain had empowered Japan in the Pacific. This was a key stage in a process that would lead, a quarter of a century later, to Pearl Harbor. Australia and New Zealand seized German possessions to the south. The Pacific was being redrawn. Spee split his squadron. The light cruiser Emden under Captain Karl von Müller made for the Bay of Bengal. Müller became famous for his audacious raids and for treating his prisoners with unusual respect. Captain Müller had an indescribable power over his crew. He never gave orders, he just expressed a wish. From the moment he took command of the ship, he never left the bridge again. The Emden sometimes rigged a dummy funnel to look like a British cruiser. On September 22, 1914, the Emden steamed into the Indian port of Madras. A crew member recorded, "The Emden sneaks closer, then fires 125 shots. Some hit boats in the harbor. Huge columns of fire rise above the oil tanks." On November 1, 1914, Spee ran into a British fleet off Coronel, Chile. The battle was a disaster for Britain. Spee's ships outgunned the British. Good Hope and Monmouth were sunk. 1,600 British sailors were lost. It was Britain's worst naval defeat for 250 years. Britain sent battle cruisers to hunt Spee. On December 8, 1914, they found him off the Falkland Islands. This time, British guns outranged Spee's. Scharnhorst and Gneisenau were sunk. Spee went down with his ship. The global hunt was over. In October 1914, the Ottoman Empire entered the war on Germany's side. The conflict spread to the Middle East, the Caucasus, and North Africa. A European war became a world war. In April 1915, Allied forces attempted to force the Dardanelles Strait and capture Constantinople. The campaign failed. After months of brutal fighting, the Allies withdrew. Over 100,000 soldiers died on both sides. British forces encouraged Arab nationalists to revolt against Ottoman rule. T.E. Lawrence of Arabia, led Arab irregulars in guerrilla attacks on Ottoman railways and garrisons. In December 1917, British forces captured Jerusalem. General Edmund Allenby entered the city on foot, showing respect for its religious significance. The Ottoman grip on the Holy Land was broken. British forces advanced up the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, capturing Baghdad in March 1917. The Ottoman Empire was collapsing. By October 1918, it had surrendered. On April 6, 1917, the United States declared war on Germany. President Wilson had tried to keep America neutral, but German submarine warfare and the Zimmermann telegram pushed him over the edge. General John Pershing led the American Expeditionary Force to France. By summer 1918, American troops were arriving at a rate of 10,000 per day. Fresh and eager, they turned the tide. The Meuse-Argonne offensive was the bloodiest battle in American history. Over 550 American soldiers died every day for 47 days. Many had little training. Some did not have full uniforms or weapons. More than 700 American soldiers were trapped behind enemy lines in the Argonne forest. They ran out of supplies. They could not care for their wounded. The Germans used flamethrowers against them, but the battalion held. Many African Americans enlisted because Wilson pitched the war as a war for democracy. Traveling to France showed Black Americans how bad racism was at home. They returned determined to fight for their own rights. America emerged from the war as a global superpower with a strong military. The United States had stepped onto the world stage and would never step back. The war redrew the map of the world. 4 empires, German, Austro-Hungarian, Russian and Ottoman, were destroyed. New nations were born: Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. The First World War killed 20 million people. It destroyed 4 empires. It gave birth to new nations. It brought America onto the world stage, and it planted the seeds for an even greater war. The Great War did not end all wars. It changed everything. Part 1. How the war began. Part 2. The trenches and battles. Part 3. The peace that caused World War II. Part 4. The Global War. The complete story of the Great War. This documentary is based on historical records from the Canadian War Museum, PBS, the Imperial War Museums, the British Film Institute, and academic sources. Follow Echoes Off Time for more history documentaries, from World War I to World War II to the Cold War. Subscribe so you never miss a chapter.